Hey, I'm Claire,
And I'm Janice.
and this is The X-Files, a podcast about breakups, broken hearts, and moving on.
We are breakup coaches here to help you beat your breakup
Heal your broken heart.
and move on to an amazing, abundant life.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to another episode of X-Files and another edition of our guest interview series.
Yeah.
I don't know why I like to say that each time, but
Yeah.
we do have a very cool guest on today, Gritti, pronouns he, him, of the nitty gritty and of TickTock fame. And we are going to be talking with him in a very lively and interesting conversation. He's also an emerging comedian, so it's very fun to listen to, I have to say, about what is narcissism, narc abuse, toxic relationships, etc. We're titling this episode Narcissism 101.
Yeah.
And we thought that October would be a great month to have this discussion because I don't want to say celebrating. We're not celebrating this, we're recognizing, and giving lots of attention to Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Yes. And narcissism and domestic violence can sometimes be intertwined, though not always. You don't have to be a narcissist to be an abuser. You can probably be one and not cross over that line, I suppose. But you could be a narcissist that never abuses anyone.
Yes,
theoretically.
Not important, I guess, to get that specific. But narc abuse has become such a hot topic and a topic of interest, I guess.
Definitely a buzzword.
Yeah. So when Claire came across someone on TickTock who is studying this and creating a coaching career out of it, we thought we would have him on to talk.
Yeah.
So Claire, did you have any moments from the chat that really stood out to you?
Yeah, I think, I'm always talking about this, but someone can be toxic without being a narcissist. Someone can just be a dick without being a narcissist. And so that's like a really important point. And I think it was really good to hear Chris's perspective on that as well.
Yep. Agreed. And I really enjoyed how he said that diagnosing someone is not really all that useful. And in fact, when you cling to this title of narcissist, it can actually keep you in kind of a victim mentality and prevent you from healing from your breakup. And he really gave some very hard truths about that, but ones that I thought were very important to say.
Yeah, exactly. About. It's like, okay, so you think that your ex was a narcissist. What now? That was a big point of his. It's like, what are you going to do now moving forward, instead of just tying yourself to like victim mentality?
Yeah. I thought it was a really beautiful moment. I also really loved how we talked about the importance of staying single and continuing to always work on yourself. I loved it. Also, the problem with being too nice in society and with dating, we're going to get into that. So we would love to hear from everyone about what they think. We are going to drop all of Chris's info in the show notes.
Yes. Yeah. And just a word as well. There were a little bit of a connection issue at the beginning. So you might hear the audio kind of be a little bit off, but push through it. It does get better. And it's a really good interview. And so we were like, we don't want to re-record this. We don't want to it's a really good, authentic, like amazing flow. And so we're posting this with the audio. It's definitely listenable. And, once you get past the beginning part, should be good to go.
Sometimes with having guests, call in from places like Hawaii, despite our best efforts once in a while, there are connectivity issues, but I know I was listening to it last night, and honestly, if you can just, like Claire said, push through, I think this is going to be a really popular episode.
Exactly. So we hope you guys enjoy as we like continue to build awareness for Domestic Violence Month. And please let us know what you think of this episode. We had a lot of fun recording it, and we think you're gonna really like Chris.
Yes, for sure. Thank you to everyone, and yep, enjoy. All right, welcome everyone to another great and exciting guest episode of X-Files. Hi, Claire.
Yes. Hello.
And hi, Chris.
Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. We're excited to have you. Claire, do you actually want to say how Chris came onto your radar?
Yes. I am a TikTok addict, and Chris came across my page. And we had been, since we began this like podcast, we knew that we wanted to address narcissism at some point, but we didn't know who to address it with. We wanted to have an expert on the show who was like approachable and who also like shared kind of our point of view on like personality disorders and you know, throwing terms around, which we'll talk about. But as soon as I started watching your stuff, I was like, this is the guy.
Yes, she sent me the video and said, "Oh, you know, he has a really cool perspective." And now here we are, a couple months later.
Yeah, and I'm like, we'll never get him on. He's like TikTok famous, so.
You have had great success with TikTok. Do you feel excited about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I would be kicking myself if I wasn't grateful for it. It was much faster than I could have imagined. You know, I had sort of tried to sort of get things going on YouTube back years, you know, and talk, but it was different. It was like I wanted to talk about deep stuff, but I didn't want to know what I wanted to talk about, and I was still in these relationships.
Yeah,
I just didn't really know. Well, that's what I mean. I didn't want to talk about toxic relationships because that obviously didn't come up, but I still felt like I had something I wanted to share. Like I wanted to do something, but nothing was clicking or jazzing or vibing. And then when I had gotten onto these other apps, particularly Stereo and Clubhouse, a couple of people that were supportive there were like, "You need to go check out TikTok, Chris." And I was like, "Isn't TikTok mostly for like
dancing,
shuffling millennials, you know?" And
oh my God, the dancing videos.
Yeah. And wouldn't I sort of not fit in there? And she just sort of laughed and she was like, "Just go, trust me for once." You know, she's like a internet marketing major. So it was one of those things. She's like, "It'll work." And So I made these videos instead of like extending them to these 20-minute long things like I was doing on YouTube, which even for me was slowing my own instinctual pace down because I'm neurodiverse and all that stuff with ADHD. So I can chatterbox like crazy. And I know that. So I was trying to counter that on YouTube, whereas on TikTok, it's sort of necessary to get all the information in. And so I was worried, obviously, you know, I thought, hell, if I'm going to be making a 3-minute video or even in the beginning, just 1 minute, how am I going to shove all this information in? And I know that if you're watching TikTok, you're only on there for 20 seconds max if it's boring. So how am I going to be interesting and talk about narcissism?
And a bit light too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then my buddy Griff, who's a good friend of mine, my roommate, you know, he's always the one who reminds me to stop criticizing, which is his word for my overthinking. And he was just like, "Just try it, man. Like, you know, you believe in what you're doing." So I did. And holy crap, you know, a summer later, I went from 100 followers to 130K. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Nice work. Well, along the lines of what you do, why don't you maybe define it? But then I guess more importantly, almost, how did you arrive at what you do?
I'm a mental health coach and a certified cognitive behavioral therapist. But it began for me in the end of like 2019, the fall, really around September, when I started studying cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, at that time, I was with who is now my ex-wife, and I didn't understand why it was a very toxic relationship. You know, without having to get into too many details, you can imagine. So I was being gaslit a lot. I was being devalued. I was being told that I was toxic, that people didn't want to tell me that I was annoying, but that I was.
That's
so that every time I was
gaslighting,
going,
Yeah.
right, exactly. That, and I was constantly, and she got to a point where she had me almost believing that people had been doing that to me my whole life. They didn't like me, but they still didn't want to hurt my feelings, which didn't really make sense, but I had come to believe it. And for so many other things, I had started to think that I was toxic. I thought that I had a sex issue because I wanted to have sex with my wife. I thought I had all sorts of things, and you name it. And she had gotten me to that point. So I thought I was going crazy. And I started studying to find out if I was crazy, if I was narcissistic, because she started throwing that word at me. And I didn't really know what it meant. You know, I knew that for me, it meant the same what it means to so many people these days. It just means like douchey and selfish and whatever.
Right. I can't wait to talk about it. Yep.
You know, but I obviously I didn't want to be that. And I also totally believed like if you're crazy or if you're toxic, you may not know it, right? Because I've met people who are completely not like, am I that? Is that me? Fucking A, because I wouldn't know if. So I started studying, and then as I'm studying, my brain starts clicking into all these boxes. Like, wow, that sure sounds familiar, but I'm not there. I'm over there.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, like, wow, like the phrases that people talk about when they start to genuinely talk about abuse from these kinds of narcissistic. That stuff parallels across a ton of different relationships. So you're like, oh, and the first thing that starts to happen is like, I'm not crazy. It was like,
huge relief.
You know, I'm sitting there thinking I'm trying hard to be a good person, and that's fucked up. And, you know, and they're saying, no, I'm not fucked up. You are. And you're just going, but I know you're a good person because I want to be empathetic and understanding. So you can't actually be trying to drive me crazy. Like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And that all led to me studying. And then when I started studying cognitive behavioral therapy and I started really understanding my side of it, like my codependent habits from my childhood of where I was trained by my narcissistic mother. And like, you just start walking yourself back through your life and understanding so much more. Before I knew it, I was just strangely hungry and passionate to understand more about this stuff because it made sense to me in a way that, like, when I started to explain it to my friends, they were like, wow, like I've never heard somebody say it like that before. You need, you know, and I was like, oh, okay. And that just spiraled into more of this, and now TikTok and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But mostly I just do coaching sessions for people. You know, that's what I do. And I work a 9-to-5 job because I'm still like that. You know, I'm climbing back
we're on
zero,
the
but we'll get into that.
that.
Well, that's for like that's later in the questions, I think. Yeah, we'll get to that.
And
part.
it led to the dissolution of the relationship because you started studying.
Yeah.
Right. I started seeing the tactics. As soon as I started having someone explain anything, as soon as I started to really start to understand what gaslighting actually is, then it was like, then I started to notice it. Not always, because I didn't realize how much I had been gaslit until I started to peel away all the flipping layers. Because that's really what it's like, whoa, you know, like, wow, it's everywhere.
Yeah, and especially if you're with someone for years. I mean, I'm still remembering things from my marriage. He was definitely a gaslighter, or things, you know, that he might have done early on where I'm like, oh my God.
And you're like, why did I stay?
Yes. And I had a similar thing. I wanted to try and solve the problems in the relationship because he was constantly telling me, you need help. You need help. And so I went to therapy, and after just a couple months, even the therapist was like, no.
And it's always nice.
Yeah, really.
And that's really what is so great about therapy in general. And I'm glad that the taboo is finally wearing off. It really is, because it's like the generational taboo makes sense from like the war-hardened soldiers coming back from those, like, walk, you know, don't deal with your feelings, keep pushing through, don't quit, muscle through, man up. That's all soldiers bringing that mentality back. Now finally we've been at least safe relatively subjectively here in this country, right? That's why we joke about first world issues. But like, now we're finally saying, okay, hey, maybe therapy's not crazy. And that's really all it is. It's like something to validate that you're not crazy, a second cerebral cortex without any skin in your game for you to say, am I nuts? Here's what's going on.
Yes. Yeah.
And I go, here's their thoughts on it. They're not going to necessarily say you're not nuts, but still you get honest feedback instead of like loaded, biased feedback, which is what you don't need.
Yeah, exactly. Something you said earlier where it's like you start seeing the signs everywhere. I think that contributes to what we were like mentioning earlier, which was like why we wanted to be really careful about handling this is we don't want to contribute to people just throwing this term around every time someone's, just like a dick.
And especially in the context of a breakup.
We have a good word. We have a good word for that. Dick.
Yeah. Because especially during a breakup, you're really seeing like kind of the worst of people. Maybe where we could go from here is to talk about what is narcissism and really talk about how it is a scale and we're kind of all on it on some
and but then possibly what is it clinically as well, like really where do you cross over to being a narcissist?
Right.
Chris, I'm so excited. Lay it on us.
All right. I'm ready. I came prepared for this one. So the Mayo Clinic, because I didn't want to go Wikipedia, and I've gone through a lot of other things when it comes down to definitions, but I sort of still trust the Mayo Clinic's definition of things, right? Because they're really trying to help people from my perspective. So that's just where we're talking for an authority today. They say narcissistic personality disorder is one of several types of personality disorders. It's a mental health condition in which people have an inflated sense of their own importance, a deep need for excessive attention and admiration, troubled relationships, and a lack of empathy for others. But behind the mask of extreme confidence lies fragile self-esteem that is vulnerable to the slightest criticism. So when I say I agree, but I've also found it's a lot easier for us to understand it on the social landscape level as this word we use for the toxic extreme side of the self-confidence spectrum. So life is about finding and maintaining our inner balance, right? And our balance with the world around us. So that's why all these spectrums, they're kind of like sliders on a soundboard or a video board we all kind of know what that looks like, right? All these different lights, and now we've got all those for all our different emotions. And if you're too angry or you're too sad or you're too whatever, you're out of balance and things aren't clicking, right? And so narcissism is one end of one of those spectrums, the other end being insecurity on the extreme level.
Yeah.
Right. So in the middle is where that self-confidence and self-love spot is, but each of us have a different balance point on every single one of those stinking spectrums. So you have to find that healthy place between your insecurity and your potential toxic narcissism. And that's what we would call confidence. And that's why I would say, if you pass over confidence, like confidence is believing in yourself. Arrogance is expecting others to agree with you. When it comes down to simplifying this idea of what narcissism is on a basis. And then when you take it and you go up to like the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Health Disorders, and we start talking about NPD or narcissistic personality disorder, then you have to talk about the 8 signifying markers of this. And this is like narcissistic personality disorder is the clinical definition for the top end of that spectrum.
Okay.
Right. And to know that you're up there, for another person to know you well enough to clinically diagnose you to be at the top end of that spectrum, they have to observe you, which means have sessions with you over a period of time and see these traits. And there's like 8 signifying markers. It's grandiosity, exploitative, envious of others, sense of entitlement, preoccupation with success and power, belief of being unique, arrogance and domineering, lack of empathy, and this requires excessive admiration or like ridiculously needs compliments all the time. Now,
and that's the thing, is it is ridiculous. If you've ever known one, and I've known 2, you've never known anyone like this in your life. It's so over the top.
Deep sea compliment fishermen. Yeah. That's what they are, like all the time, hardcore. Compliment me. I'm awesome. Did you hear what I did?
And
Let me tell you about me.
It is so crazy. Yeah. And when you say that you've known two of them, like at least one of them, was actually diagnosed.
Yes.
Like,
so I guess I shouldn't say I've known two because I didn't ask the second person. But yes, part of my story is that one of my exes was diagnosed when he was in rehab as narcissistic personality disorder. And he came back and told us, and we actually tried to coddle him a little. He told me and his mom, and we're like, no. But
I have a question though. I'm actually curious because I unfortunately haven't had the opportunity yet to have too many conversations with genuine narcissists. They seem to be avoiding me for some reason. Because I'm genuinely like, yeah, please come talk to me. So as somebody who's actually been diagnosed, I guess I would be curious, what did that diagnosis do for them? Like that self-awareness, did it just become their past? Like, that's why I'm this way. They told me I'm this way and I'm stuck this way. Is that what that was supposed to be? Like now it just is a thing.
Yeah. I mean,
like I have cancer. Sorry.
Yes. I mean, he wasn't a very self-reflective person. I don't think he took it to, as something to try and overcome whatsoever.
Yeah, he's like, this is
he
why
thought
I'm
he'd
awesome.
be an extra self-aware. Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean, if anything, the behavior might have even gotten worse. These people don't give a shit what anyone else thinks.
Yeah. That's why I asked. I was very curious because I've a few times that I've encountered, like I have one of my coworkers, as a matter of fact, I suspect very highly that he is, based on my continued experience. And he asked me genuinely one day, because he basically said to me while I was outside having a cigarette with him, he's like, well, enough with all the narcissism stuff on TikTok, Chris. Like, why don't you let's try something else. And I was like, that's very interesting because, like thousands of people are saying not the same thing as what you just said. So like the fact that you're getting bored or irritated with it is something you should look at, I think. Like, I don't think I'm done talking about it, but thanks for that. And then little hints like that. And then finally he asked me, like, you might be, bro. You don't really think about anybody else. And every time you ask me for something, or you ask me for advice, or you ask for something, and I tell you genuinely, you go, wow, dude, that's deep. I totally get it. I'm absolutely going to change. And then the next day you do the same fucking thing before, like you never thought. And it's wash, rinse, repeat, like brick wall banging your head.
Yeah.
So you are, man, because you're definitely pinging a lot of my instincts for them. And that was the most honest I could be without being rude. You know what I mean? It's like, but people don't ask. They don't ask.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. So, that ties into like why we wanted to be careful around the topic and just,
Yeah. And also just that it's like become so isn't. Over. Yeah. Let's talk about what it isn't.
What is it not?
Right.
How many ways can we say this?
Yeah. Well, no, because it's really important, because what isn't narcissism is way more stuff than what is.
Yeah.
Like astronomically, mind-blowingly more. Like there's so many things that are toxic and not narcissistic that it's important to understand these distinctions. Yeah. That's why we make them. That's what labels are for.
Wonderful. And that's why I never refer to my ex-husband as a narcissist. Gaslighting, yes, for sure. Mm-hmm. But I would never say he was a narcissist.
You can say, you can even say, I suspect that he was.
Yeah.
But instead of like without trying, but as long as it's coming from a place of I believe, then you're not trying to state it as some clinical fact of diagnosing it. That's where people are jumping over that line, that armchair diagnosis where, I know they're a fucking narcissist. It's like, they could be freaking bipolar or antisocial or psychotic or who knows. And that's just being
one
extreme.
Bad habit.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just pointing other extremes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Could just be idiots too.
Could just not like you.
That's my situation, if you ask me.
I think that's actually the majority of the toxicity that we're dealing with in the world today. It's not people who are actually narcissists. We just, now we're all connected through social media and we like clickbait and the news likes giving us toxic crap. So it seems like there's selfish, sucky people all over the place. But the majority of people who are doing stupid, toxic shit are you and me, who are just a little blind to our own toxicity, stumbling through the world, trying to learn how to be better. So it's like, we got to chill the hell out. You slap a label on somebody and they're not strong enough to learn how to defend it. It messes, you know what I mean? Like you're almost like manifesting them to remain that way. You're a narcissist to somebody else, sort of doesn't give them any wiggle room to grow. So it's it's dangerous.
But also if we throw it around too much, might not even mean anything to them anyway.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
You
Like you can be toxically codependent. You can be toxically, obsessive compulsive. Like there are so many habits that can end up being, and when we talk about toxic or dysfunctional or disorder, it's not about bad or good. That's another thing where our brains do this ugly, stupid, false dichotomy thing, because that's what brains do. We want to simplify everything down to a yes or no, right or wrong. But it's like we're saying, everything's on these slider spectrums, and there's a shit ton of sliders. So stop trying to measure other people's shit, because how the hell can you? Like it's tough enough to learn how to find your own balance points. That's why so many therapists and coaches and stuff are constantly saying, do the work on yourself. Stop pointing the finger of blame on other people. What they did was probably inexcusable. Don't make excuses for bad behavior. You don't have to enable or all that crap, but get away, remove, do something so that your life is, take the controller of your life in your own stinking hands, and stop expecting the world to change or get safer or nicer. It's never been safe or nice, it's always been everything. Dangerous and amazing. Like life is adversity. Every time that's all it is, right? We just get better at dealing with certain kinds of adversity, so it seems easy. Like think about math before you learned how to do math. It was fucking hard.
I still don't know how to do math.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I think it's especially important in the context of a breakup, because we hear so many people saying, well, my ex, he's just an effing narcissist. All right, why are you telling us that? Why aren't you seeing what you can do to remove yourself from it? Why are you so focused on calling him a narcissist?
Yeah. And then we have, people who are like, he was super, or she, or whatever identification that person is, they were so toxic. But I feel sorry for them.
Oh yeah.
Like, and it's like, hang on a second.
Yeah, that's actually a big
But you understand
thing.
why though? Just because our society, for whatever reason, and there are different ones, whether they be philosophical, spiritual, religious, socio-political, we have things we think are supposed to be certain ways, but the thing we all can be blind to is that there's a bunch of other groups that all think their stuff is supposed to be certain ways, and they don't match. And we can be really blind to that when we're trying to be open-minded about things, because what ends up happening is you end up feeling guilty for not liking someone.
Oh,
but it's okay, right? That's why that last thing comes out of everyone's mouth. But I hope the best for them, and all the blessings. And I'm not, I'm sure deep down, deep down,
super deep down,
they're a good person, and I hope them all the best. And I'm not saying that's wrong of us to try to be that generous with our empathy, but no, not to everybody.
but I agree.
Yeah, especially in staying in a toxic relationship.
Right. We're enabling their bad behavior by being too nice.
Yeah.
And what really blows my mind is all you really need to do, even if you're not a parent, is just dial yourself to the idea of like caring for a child, and that child is acting in the same manner. Are you going to allow them to attack your empathy or mess with you or gaslight you at the same level? Because kids do. They do. They try, but you're an adult, so you're like, sucker, I'm smarter than you. You can't do that. Like that's like how it kind of works. Hopefully you are. Some of their kids get really smart, quick, fast, right? But that's not the point. But when we get it to an adult, we somehow give it more weight, even though the action's the same. Like a narcissistic explosion of rage is no different than a temper tantrum. We give it the reaction that we choose to give it. If we acted like, oh God, okay, get this out of your system, it would piss off that toxic person. But if we were not engaging in the same way that we wouldn't with a kid, because we're like, yep, nope, you're not, like, I know what you're doing is dumb, and I'm not going to enable it. I'm not going to encourage it. I'm not going to. You're strong enough to hold your own with someone whom you feel comfortable holding your own against. But when it comes to the abuser, you've already been like knocked down to this place where you have no defenses. So you don't know how to hold your own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've lost that perspective, that filter, your boundaries. They learn to just dissolve the shit out.
Yeah.
So it's more important to understand toxic manipulative habits than it is to label someone narcissistic or codependent. Like you just don't know for sure, because it takes a long time to actually give a diagnosis. It really does. You know, it takes over time watching those things. It takes, like, you've got to be envious of others or entitled consistently, not just like one day when you're in a bad mood and you say something. Like, that's human.
Yes, or when you're pissed off because you're breaking up. You know?
Yeah, and you're like lashing out. People are not usually rational when they're under a lot of emotional stress.
Do you, if you were in a relationship with a narcissist, and I suppose I can answer this even myself, but would you know, because sometimes we speak to people who were in quite long-term relationships and only start bringing up this label of narcissist after they've broken up with the person. Yeah. So do you think that it would be possible to stay with someone years and not know?
I would dare say that people who say they didn't know sure as hell suspected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's, I mean, I know I'm making sort of an assumption there because I think some people could be blind to it. But the people who are genuinely blind to it would also be genuinely blind to the toxic upbringing that most likely that conditioned them to be blind to it in the first place. So it happened at home before it happened in their relationship. Yeah. And because they never hit that level of self-awareness, maybe they never had a rock bottom. Maybe they were a spoiled, like in a little bubble, and they moved right from that bubble over to here and everything was fine until this. And they have no defenses, that kind of thing. So yeah, some people could say I didn't know. But as you grow older through experience, especially if it depends on their isolation, right? If you're still going out to work and now we're able to connect out with things like this, isolation is getting a lot harder, genuinely. It really is. And that's why narcissists and other toxic people have such a hyper kind of control and watch your phone now, because they know it's an access point for other information.
Yeah.
That's one key I always say in a toxic relationship: keep your phone locked. Even if it gets to, you start pinging any of those flags. In fact, from the get-go, I'd keep that phone locked. It does not matter why. It does not matter why you don't belong in somebody else's phone for any reason. However, I would say if you're genuinely trying to engage in a relationship, because I've had this counterpoint, that if you want to be open and honest and the partner says, may I look at your phone, or showing a little bit of trust by handing them your phone when you're showing pictures or something, like don't be hyper, because that's also a warning sign as well. So again, it's just the balance points, right? We keep trying to look for these yes or no, all are good kind of like, if I know this hack, I'm safe. No, you must assess every time. It's about learning and calibrating and paying attention, which means you need to keep your eyes open even when they're really hot.
Well, then along those lines, you're just dropping truth bombs all over the place. Along those lines, what are the early signs? So if you would probably suspect narcissism out of your partner.
Yeah. Or say you're dating and you're like on the dating scene or something, and it's still kind of,
people are putting their best foot forward. So can you still tell, even in the honeymoon phase? How can you tell? What would you say are some good signs to look for, or red flags?
Well, this is a fun game that I often play with my clients, because it's one question that I get a lot, because it's like, we just don't know for sure. I want some for sure kind of answers, right? But we laid out the 8 signifying markers of at least narcissism in this case. So what I would put to you, what would be an example of sense of entitlement on a first date to you?
Oh, like being rude to waiters or something.
And wanting you to stay out longer than you want to.
Yeah.
And I will say, I can't believe that just came to me, because that would have been a sign that I would have seen in my relationship. Is I remember early on, we'd be on the phone, and even if it was late or I had to go to work, he would get mad and want me to either stay up really late on the phone with him. I remember once
that they expect you, right? They make you feel like you're abandoning them.
Yes.
And really, they're terrified of abandonment, and they usually tell you that very early.
Yeah.
Because then they want you to be that's like an empathy hook trap when it comes to baiting. When you think about it, boom, I have abandonment issues.
Yeah.
Because if you do, which almost all of us do to some degree.
Yeah, who wants to be abandoned?
No one.
Right. Exactly.
So like
that's sort of a dumb term, So when they say that, that's like, if you're not careful, if you're not paying attention, it's okay to say it, right? I would say it too. But if with that comes the expectation that you do something to deal with that,
Yeah.
Now we're moving into entitlement.
Yeah. Yeah. I have this issue, so you need to do these things. And if you don't, you're a terrible person.
And what about
you do, don't you? You
do,
don't you? We do.
Well,
we
yeah,
do.
especially early on in a relationship when you're, I mean, I kind of wanted to
fold yourself into some shape. Like,
that's exactly what I did. It's not what I wanted to. It's what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
I love you. I love you.
This is what you need. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, just paying attention to those signs that might not be so little. And I feel like when you're excited about someone at the beginning, you can kind of overlook these and kind of make excuses for people. Yeah.
The first time he got abusive with me, I finally came out and told my parents, and I just immediately launched into, his childhood sob story.
Is why.
And this is why. And
so that you don't feel like you're trash talking him. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Because I wasn't ready yet to walk away. But yeah, every single person who I told, oh no, oh that's sad, and I've never heard anything like that before.
But you see, that's the trap too, because here's and I guess we can, it's a little bit of a slide thing, but like there's different kinds of narcissism, right? Yes. And so manipulation comes from a lot of different directions, and that's something we don't always realize. Like, we all understand the general idea of manipulation through like evil villains and shit, like what we would call the classic or grandiose narcissist. Like, we all have one person in our head, and I'm not saying it's the same person, but like when we think of like narcissist, like there's a, I got a famous person.
Like, that's a narcissist. Yeah.
That's the, the movie villains, the really obvious ones, the ones who aren't afraid or ashamed of it. But then there's things like covert narcissist. Now, covert narcissist is the one who just has all of those 8, but instead of thinking they're the most amazing, they think they're the biggest victim. So in a way, they're still the best. They're still more important, more special, more of a victim, more me.
More deserving of everyone else doing what they need and want.
Right. My life was hard, so you should be more kind to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've like, this was something I really wanted to talk about because like you said, we can all recognize that one person who's like very outwardly narcissistic. But then is a covert narcissist like someone, like they're like the do-gooder, and they're kind of like always, doing things on paper for other people, but it's in like a tit for tat, like, look how much I give way?
Well, it's interesting because, and before I dive into these, I always want to make sure that I say this. When we're talking about the types of narcissism, again, remember, narcissism is on that slider. Like, we can't get locking any of these things in, right? These labels have to remain loose. And the reason I say that is because covert, malignant, somatic, they can be all of them. And so can we. So it's not like they're just going to be covert. When you can label someone a covert narcissist or whatever, it's like saying that's the style they favor. That's their favorite flavor. So they're more that per se than they are other things, but that does not preclude them flipping to one of the other ones and being like, oh, now I'm not sure. They're kind of doing this. They're human beings. They're 3-dimensional. Like, we can't simplify them down to a black or white again. So I always want to say that before we start.
Theory.
That's exactly right. So having said that, what you're talking about is more of a communal narcissist, the do-gooder narcissist, the ones who, the public thinks they're a saint, but at home they're a tyrant. And that's because the only reason that they're doing good is because they want to look like a good person, not because it's coming from a place. Like, the motivation is slightly off. It's like they were a kid and they looked at all the things they could be. I want to be a superhero. I want to be a good person. And they went kind of Machiavellian with it and just started doing all the mechanical side of it rather than understanding why good, generous, empathetic people do good, generous, and empathetic things. So as they go about doing all these good deeds, which are good, that's why this one's a huge rub. Like, they are actually doing good in the world, but they expect praise. That's their juice. That's their narc supply, is people knowing what they did, not so much what they did. So it's more about spreading with people, this I've done, and this I've done, and this I've done. And it's true, you've done it. Good for you. Thank you. But the repetitive reminders and need for it to always be ongoing, like, you know, instead of moving on to the next good deed, they need a lot of juice from each of their good deeds. And if they don't get enough, their punching bags are quite often their families, and they're the people who are closest to them, who know the truth, who they're at home going, nobody ever really understands how fucking hard I work, and that kind of shit.
Probably some religious leaders or cult leaders would be the classic example of this, right?
But they also fit into like the spiritual narcissistic kind of aspect, which is another flavor. Those spiritual people who are saying, I am more at one with God than any other person. I am more connected to the universe. I understand more. I am the best this, or the most connected.
I am your only path to salvation. I am your only way to be spiritual.
The answer, exactly, which is like, yikes, run away.
Oh my god.
So you know, but you've also got cerebral narcissists who tend to not be very sexual. They're very proud of how smart they are, and they'll sort of remind you and give their credentials all the fucking time, and just remind you constantly that they're a super hyper intelligent person and everything they say makes more sense and you should listen to it. You're just kind of like, okay, you know, like they're very dismissive in that way, and that's where their sense of entitlement comes from. So you can see it's really about where those sliders are. Like, if you can keep with me, because I'll try to not go too deep. So you're on the confidence slider, right? You're up in the narcissism, we're talking about NPD. Now break that out. You've got a slider in there with all of those for all these traits. So wherever all of, like, if you're extra arrogant and domineering and extra exploitative, you're going to look slightly different as a narcissist than if you've got other sliders. And you get what I mean? So again, it speaks to this idea of how complex we are as human beings. So we can't diagnose. It's not about diagnosing.
Yes, this is a PSA from the X-Files. Do not diagnose.
Yeah.
You don't need to. Usually if you're diagnosing, it's to go extra dramatic so people feel sorry for you. It's a victimhood thing crying out.
Totally. And that is why maybe it does come up in our work so much. It's because when you're in a breakup, you know, you kind of want people to, I guess, take your side in a way.
And also I can kind of understand, because like if you're questioning yourself and whether like all this was really as abusive, especially how, like, you know, in these situations you feel very alone. You end up, like, a lot of times we hear about people recording conversations because they're like, things just get so twisted that I can't even keep it straight afterwards.
Right.
Like, it's almost like when you finally accept that you have been being abused, you're kind of like, this is why he was a narcissist. Like, I am validated. Like, you don't make me question my reality again, basically. So I kind of understand a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I would go so far as to say, quite often, if we're talking about long-term relationships, like the people, they might be right. Those people who have been abused can say, just like when I was reading off all those markers for you guys, you know what I mean? You recognize all of those markers. If you spend enough time with a person, they're not all of those things all the time, but they're all of those things sometimes at different times. And it's like you get memories of pings of them doing each. Yeah. So to a degree, you're right about your potential diagnosis. But again, it's just for you to understand what you were dealing with, like to have to sort of be sure about it and have other people validate that it is this labeled narcissism, bipolar, whatever. It doesn't really change the work you have to do if you are sure that you're understanding what kind of toxicity you're dealing with. You know what I mean? So the label is the drama. You know, instead of I was with this fucking, you know, selfish dick who did A, B, C, D, it sounds way better to be like he was a narcissist, you know, like they're dramatic people. You know,
I guess it's come to that, but I think actually it's good to describe it. I think that makes it more significant, but somehow we've gotten to this point where it's not even the description of what they did that means anything. It's the label that you're putting on it. It's so interesting. How do you think it got so trendy? Am I allowed to say that?
How did we get here?
Yeah, buzzword. Well,
a buzzword. Yes, excuse me.
I think it is genuinely prevalent in society. I think we are getting sort of a nitrous charge into it with social media and capitalism. When you think about, when you just think about the idea, and I think I might have talked to you guys about this before when we were talking in the beginning, but like customer service. Like we live in America and we understand what it means to be in the service industry per se. So you go into the service industry, you're a waiter, you're a cab driver, you're dealing with customers per se. Now, capitalism's number one rule is what?
The customer's always right.
Bingo. So we all understand that, which means if we join into the service industry, we all go into this frame where we start to act other than we actually feel. We start to pretend to be nice because that's what good customer service people do, because they learn to be nice in spite of bad behavior. So now you're telling an entire society of capitalistic customers, you can be however you want as long as you'll give us your money.
Yeah.
And we've been washed, rinsed, and repeating that over and over and over, over and over and over. So, we know it. That's why so many people who have been in the service industry say everyone should be in the service industry at one point in their life. So they understand that empathy of the other side of that perspective.
Yeah.
And that's why, because it's like, you know that you're pretending to be nice, even though you might have had a bad day, because you don't want to ruin their lunch, and hopefully they'll tip you. Things like that. But at the same time, it's not genuine, right? They're not at your house. They tell you that your job, we want to treat our customers like they're guests in our home. And I go, great. What about when they act like a dick? If it's my home, I'm going to kick them out.
Yeah.
Can I do that? No, don't do that. Tell them very sorry for their experience and apologize to them for them not being allowed to do whatever the fuck they want in your house, and then somehow get them to come back. That's customer service. And we've been spoiling ourselves with capitalism for decades.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise narcissism comes out. Now you got social media and a bunch of people shaking their butts and doing all sorts of things and people going, awesome. It's like putting gasoline on a fire, genuinely. Like it's, weird. Narcissism, like we've said, is a natural part of humanity.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you think it has become
if
more
we give
prevalent?
too much juice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
but then
sure.
Do you know anything as far as percentages of what the population what percentage of the population is actually narcissists? And maybe it doesn't matter, but do you happen to know?
Well, no, because there's no realistic way to measure.
Okay. Got it.
You know what I mean? Like it's such a subjective thing, and true narcissists don't go to therapy. They're not raising their hands to get counted.
I was just going to say that. How many narcissists go to get diagnosed?
No, because they don't need help. They're perfectly fine.
Yeah, why would they? You need help.
You need help. It's everyone else around them.
That's what they think.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So you help people like in these situations, like recognize what's going on, and what else do you help people with? Like, what are the struggles that you're seeing? And
also perhaps what are you hearing on TikTok from people about their struggles?
Well, that's one thing for sure. TikTok, the response I've gotten on TikTok has been validating for all the people who are talking to each other in my lives and in the comment sections, and extraordinarily validating for me as well. Like I had confidence in myself, but like I said, confidence is believing in yourself and arrogance is expecting others to. So I didn't believe or expect anyone to agree with me, but I believed in what I was saying and it worked out, but I was still scared.
Yeah.
And the response has been overwhelming with, this is my, I make a video about, say, gaslighting, and it's comments like, this is my mother, this is my father, this is my ex. I wish I had known this 6 months ago, 7 months ago, 6 years ago, 20 years ago. Where were you? Thank you so much. This is so helpful that you have simplified this in a way that now it's giving people their validation back that they're not crazy, because it's simplifying the shit down in a way that's like, okay, yeah, that thing, you can feel like you're drowning. That's what it feels like when you're in that moment. Like you're just barely getting a real breath every once in a while.
Yeah.
And so the TikTok videos have proven to sort of be that for a lot of people. When I'm doing an individual session or I'm working with someone individually, mostly it's just about, in the beginning, at its basic, is about you actually being heard for the first time, maybe, having someone who, I don't want to interrupt you. I want you to talk. I want you to share. I'm only going to ask you questions so that I understand your story better. Much like if I was watching a movie next to the director and be like, okay, wait, I didn't quite get what happened in that scene. Why did they do that? And then the director can go, well, because of this. I'm like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? And then I get to enjoy to a certain degree that story that and so many people have these amazing stories, and that's sort of this amazing paradox. Everyone, I went through this and they were this awful, and I was for years and years and years. And the people who are away from it now, but they're still carrying it, I always want to look at them like that's a freaking Oscar caliber movie of triumph.
Yeah.
You didn't die. You're still here. You survived all that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I just
it has
got
an effect.
such goosebumps.
You know, and most often we're like, our life is fucked up now because of it. It's like, no, if that was true, it'd be over.
But now like, so much more, and you can make the choice to like never let that happen again.
Yeah, sometimes I guess you have to go through it, I suppose, but I can
experience leads to wisdom.
Yes.
Right. Information isn't necessarily wisdom. Experience is what teaches us, like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Like,
I don't like that.
But it happened. Yeah.
No more of that.
Oh man.
Oh, and I forgot what was the other thing. When it comes down to this idea of self-righteous victimhood, right? What happened to you was bad. Like they did, no need to take away that validation, like it happened, right?
Yeah.
And so quite often we get stuck in the denial stage of going through the stages of like grief, more or less. Like at the end of a relationship, it's more or less the same as a death. You need to go through the stages of grief, right? Denial, negotiating, all that shit, all the way through to acceptance, which is what most people are telling you to try to hack to at the end every time. You got to let it go. It's like, yeah, okay. But there's some shit you got to do before that, which is why you're stuck. Usually you're stuck in the denial stage. And the denial stage is that shouldn't have happened because blame reason. Now, if you've got a really good blame reason because that person lied or whatever it is, right? You've got it's good, it's real. So everyone goes, fuck. And they say, that's messed up that that happened to you. That's your dopamine hit. That's your drug as a victim, is that comfort. And you can stay there for a moment and go, see, I'm not crazy. But you still haven't done anything. You just pointed the finger of blame and then somebody gave you comfort. And that comfort becomes the drug that gets you trapped in your victimhood. So putting things like narcissist and more dramatic labels onto it gives you bigger hits of comfort dopamine because you're more dramatic. Your story is more of a victim. So people are more empathetic. So you can see how it gets, like we're learning, it's adding gas to a different kind of fire.
Yeah.
That is such a fascinating explanation of it.
So
and it's easy to get trapped there because you're right. Well, that's what we say about letting go of it to be right. Good for you. Now what?
Yeah.
Like genuinely, you figured it out. You were right. It's over. Fucking badass. Now what? Like you've got to start doing things. Even if the entire world agrees that what happened to you is bad, the entire world isn't going to show up and do shit for you.
Yeah.
Like your life is still up to you.
Unfortunately. No, it's fortunate.
Right.
I gained a lot of independence from it, but yeah, for sure.
It's adulting, right? That's what nobody's saying it's fun, but that's part of the game.
For sure.
You don't get to tap out.
Yeah, especially when you're starting, from scratch, like I did. Yeah, you have to figure everything out, and if you don't, you're just gonna stay there. Repeat the same thing again, or just stay in the squalor and victim depression state for ages. No.
Right. So when I'm doing sessions and it's just you get a chance to share all that stuff, you get that validation. Sometimes that's really all you need. Is to actually say what you've been trying to say to so many people who haven't been able to properly listen because they got their shit, or they got a bias in your thing, or they're going to give you advice, or they don't care, or. So finally you find somebody, hopefully you have a friend who can actively listen. That's ideal. If you don't, then a therapist, or like that kind of thing. But once you're able to really genuinely get out your stuff and you feel heard and validated, you're not crazy. You made a mistake. You're not broken. You just got a little lost and confused. You fell off the bike. You fell off the horse. It happens. Let's get you back up on it because there's still more fun and stuff to go ride. Still going to be dangerous. Might fall off again, but that's how it works. Yes. And a good therapist will get you back on your horse.
And coaching, I have to say that all three of us coach as well. And this is a lot of what coaching is about as well as making, especially with breakups, we talk about this all the time, but you get to the point where, you know, your friends and family don't want to hear about it. Your coach is going to be the perfect, you know, person to support you through kind of, I guess, the middle area where you still need to process, still need to let go. But it's maybe time to go outside of your circle a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. And even though nobody else should really have an opinion about your life choices and what you want to do, sadly, people in your life do.
Yeah,
they do.
And a therapist doesn't.
Yeah.
It's a simple fact. Like your mom had dreams and aspirations for you. She shouldn't have, because that's not her place, though it's your life. Like when parents think, I hope my kid is A, B, C, D, F, G, that's being selfish. Sorry, you don't get to make those choices for them. Like you don't own your kid. You're responsible for raising them until they're an adult. That's how that works. You never own them. Even when they're a kid, you don't own them. You know how you know you don't own them? Because they don't listen to you. They don't obey. It takes work.
Oh,
you know, and,
your music to my ears.
You know, like little kids have free will too. So an adult with free will don't need to care what mom thinks. But moms, dads, friends, partners love to condition us to think that their opinion about our life choices should be valued above our own even, which is sort of amazing when you think about it, because I guarantee they would not accept that from someone trying to do that to them.
Yeah, especially as grown-ups.
Yeah. And also it's like, is your life going exactly how you wanted it to?
Right. Walk your walk. Inspire your kids to follow you. If you're a good parent, you're living your life well, and your kids are like, I'm inspired by them.
Yeah.
That's different than like, I'm angry because the life fucked me up and blah, blah, blah. And being a parent was hard. And I didn't find my dreams because I raised you instead.
No.
Right? It's like, well, I'm not going to do that then. Whatever you're doing, I'm not going to do the same thing.
Yeah. There's so many people I've met through my life who are like, I live my life in contrast to my parents, you know? And it's like, this is like your manifesto is that I'm not going to be my mom, like, or I'm not going to be my dad. Is like, oh no, like be your own person. You're still interdependent at that point. But anyway,
and it's still one of those false dichotomy type of things as well. Like you can't just simply say I'm not like them. If you, again, we're talking about the sliders on the spectrum, right? And the other side of narcissism is extreme toxic codependency. So I'm not like my narcissistic mom might mean if you go too far, I'm not like her on the complete opposite end, but I'm just as bad to the people in my life and myself. So like trying too hard not to be somebody else is trying to move your sliders around in relation to other people's sliders. It starts to sound crazy when you start to think about it. Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, like it's never going to work. You've got to find your own balance points. And when other people are trying to tell you where your balance points are, trust your instincts. Yeah. Because you know where you feel okay.
Yeah. And they'll get used to it too. That's the thing. Like, I think we've both had this, like we've talked about it, where we would like ask people for advice and try to figure out like what everyone thought we should do. And then we end up being like, I know what I want to do, but now this person has told me what I should do. And they're going to feel bad if I don't take the advice. And guess what? Right. Every time I like ignore someone's advice and just do what I decided was going to be best, is they're like, oh, good for you. Like they didn't actually care that much. Like, you know, like they're like, cool, glad you figured that out. Like
I've
kind of and it works.
It works.
You know, when you trust yourself, it does work. Not all the time, but it sure as hell does.
You
sometimes.
Get there eventually.
It's amazing what we've come to think of it like intermittent reinforcement. We've come to think of it like gambling. Like if we're lucky, it'll work out. But it's not gambling. You have way more control over that stuff than gambling. Yeah. But we still give it that level of like, I hope I don't fumble it. But it's like, okay, learn to handle that better. Kind of like get stronger, faster, better with your mental clarity and your emotional balance. Like it takes work. You're going to get knocked down, angry, sad, depressed.
and rerouted and
up.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does take a lot of work. I used to weigh in, have every person in my life weigh in on like every little thing that I did.
Yeah.
And when I first started, I mean, I was compulsive about it. And when I first decided enough is enough, I know the first couple times some things came up, this urge to grab my phone was like overwhelming. I felt so uncomfortable not talking to anyone about it, but I am so much better off for it.
Yeah.
Yep, I totally get it. You know, one thing, a nice analogy that really helped me see this sort of habit clearly for myself is thinking about playing like role-playing games, video games, you know, the really complicated ones like, I don't know, Final Fantasy or something, where you get a lot of individual choices for your character, right? Your avatar. Yeah. Now, your avatar, when you're playing a game like that, is just you. Yeah. And think about how much freedom and trust in your own instincts to play with that you give yourself. Right? Yeah. Suddenly you're not worried. It reset. Like you've got this free pass. You can get an extra life. So suddenly you really start making choices that are more geared towards you, right? You don't play an RPG so you hope other people think you're playing your RPG well. Yeah. Like you're going to make the choices in your game based on your own instincts because you're not as afraid of failure because it's a game.
You can lose those instincts though when you're with a narcissist, which is what my problem was. You didn't know, you couldn't hear your intuition for anything. So you got to retrain yourself. So if you are in a toxic relationship with possibly a narcissist, what do you do? How do you get out? Should you get out?
Yeah, safety.
It's a very, 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 very complicated thing. You have to dial in whether or not you're dealing with children in a marriage. That complicates things and it changes the landscape quite a bit. But setting that aside for the moment, when we're talking about in general toxic relationships that don't have that as a glue. If you are at all certain and you're trusting your instincts, the bottom line is that you have to ask yourself is, how long have you been unhappy? How long have you been trying? And if you can't answer that question in a way that you're okay with, and maybe you will, right? We'll keep making excuses until we're willing to actually look at it. And that's why I don't like to say, move out now. It's like, no, just start being more honest with yourself. I know it's going to hurt. It's not fun. It prickles, it tickles, it itches. Because you have to take a little bit of responsibility for ignoring stuff or not being strong enough to say no. Times when you know damn well you wanted to. And that's what I mean about being honest. The problem that we do is we add guilt and shame after we have these realizations about ourselves, like we're parents scolding ourselves. And that's just not healthy. That means every time we think about those memories, we're shaming ourselves. That means that somebody had done that. Most likely, unfortunately, sadly, parents have a very bad habit of teaching with guilt and shame. Don't ever do that again. What would I do if something happened to you? What are you telling a child at that moment? My feelings about your safety are more important than your safety. You should feel guilty that you scared me.
Yeah.
What? No, Mom, that's you. You should be dealing with your fear. Don't pick it and spick it on your kids. Don't do that because you might die is valid information for your child. It's my job to keep you alive.
Totally.
I'm trying to teach you. That wasn't safe. Please don't do that. None of that has anything to do with you. It has everything to do with teaching them. When you add the guilt on, suddenly the kid goes, fuck. And then of course, when they do something dangerous, they feel guilty because mom might get mad. And then what happens? You don't tell your parents shit anymore.
Yeah.
Yep. Been there, been there, still there.
And we do that to ourselves. When we fuck up, we've been trained, conditioned to every time we make a mistake, add a little guilt to make it stick. No, hard pass, fuck that.
So try to look past the guilt and shame.
Yeah.
And then what?
Just look at this stuff. I really like to try to say, look at it almost like a math problem or dissecting it like a map. Take out for a minute. I'm not saying we're abandoning emotion because holy crap, it's important. I agree. But like one thing at a time, and below the emotion are the beliefs that are causing them.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to look at that honestly without all the shame and guilt getting in there and clouding us, because then we get lost in that and we get sad and we ruminate about memories and I should have and I could have and I wish I would have.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just going, had I not done this, had I said no at that moment, I wouldn't have gone through that. Now, it doesn't mean you can go back and change it. You learned your lesson, but that's what it means to learn the lesson, is to recognize that moment when, if you had done that. So in the future, boom, you're in another moment that's like that. You don't need to feel guilt or any of that shit. There's just no reason for that to be there. It's just pinging your memory as long as you give it a strong hook. And that's just being comfortable looking at yourself. Trust me, letting go of scolding yourself for not doing your job right as your life or whatever the hell it is extraordinarily empowering and freeing, because guess what? Nobody does it right. What the hell does that mean anyway?
Mm-hmm.
So it's too much expectation for perfection.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes people can get stuck in a situation like, oh, well, like I've invested like 3 years into this. So like now I have to like stick it out because, you know, I'm in my 30s. I'll never find some, you know, like.
That's the quicksand mentality. Absolutely. And it's also a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
That means that you don't have enough confidence in yourself to be attractive enough to meet a new partner. There's 8 billion people on earth. Like, do the numbers realistically. You don't have to like make yourself into a narcissist and think you're banging or whatever. It doesn't matter. But come on, stop beating yourself up. And again, it's with all that shame and emotion, be realistic. You know what I mean? You've had dates with other people. Other people have invested. There will be more. That is life. The only reason that stops is if you stop, if you quit, if you bail out, if you tap out.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
When you do decide to leave, sometimes we hear that people believe that they need to really make it known to the other person how horrible they've been. What do you think about
like
that?
They need to know what they did to me. That's a big one.
Do they? That's what they need. There you go. They need. Who are we working on? Who are we working on? Who is that for? Is it for them or is it for you? Is that for your in your spite and you want to get your just victim? I get it. That's your revenge. That's your fuck you. That's your punch in the face as you're walking out, more or less.
Yeah.
But they don't give a shit. You're wasting your breath. It's like one last extra hard bang against the brick wall. Good for you. But it doesn't work. It never has. I've talked to tons of clients. Everyone tries it. It's pointless. If you try to end a relationship respectfully and as an adult with a toxic, childish, selfish person, is it surprising that it doesn't work out the way you're planning it to? Because they're not going to go and play the game the same way. They're not going to suddenly at the end become the person you were hoping they would be. You're not going to change them. Let them figure their shit out. Like the sooner you tap out, the less damage they're going to do to you. Perfect. Let them be them. Like the best way to win a fight is not be there. Sometimes we think, oh my gosh, that means that I'm being a coward. A lot of guys have a hard time with that, especially like running away or walking away. It's not about walking away. It's about knowing where not to be.
Yeah.
So like in this, you know, and talking about a narcissist, not being there isn't a physical thing. It's a mental choice. I'm not going to mentally join in where you are in this competitive game thing anymore. I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah, because even if you win the battle, there's going to be casualties, you know?
And then another battle. Trust me. It never ends.
Just don't show up.
It's quicksand. It's a black hole. It's all designed to keep you going, because when you engage with a toxic person, that is the supply that makes them keep going. Not how you engage, just if you.
Yeah. Let them find someone else to engage with them.
Torture.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why boundaries are sort of like well-maintained, healthy boundaries are narc armor. They really are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Saying no comfortably without feeling guilt. I get it. Codependence. I get it. Fucking hard. Especially when we could. I do have enough time. I do like you. I could do this. I have no real reason to say no other than I don't really want to.
Yeah.
Yes. Or also I said
Guilt.
I would, even though you've changed your mind.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and then guilt. Then we add the guilt. The guilt. Why do we do that? I don't know. It's not helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is helpful sometimes. I shouldn't go, again, I don't like to go in extremes. Guilt is a valid emotion that it should be there when you make a legitimate mistake and you understand that you need to make recompense. I fucked up. I feel genuinely guilty. That's real. But telling someone else that they should feel guilty, I would caution against doing that ever.
Oh, it kind of like reminds
Not
me.
never, but you know, almost never, kind of, you know, like very, very rare occasions.
It kind of reminds me of that whole, like, you hear about these conversations happening where it's like, well, I only said that because you did this, and you know, like it's
the
kind
chicken
of
and the egg blame game.
Exactly. And it's like,
I love that one.
So how can, you know, so someone has made the really, you know, scary decision, they've been brave, they've gotten out. How do you heal? Like, how do you start, like, you know, delineating what is acceptable behavior from partners, what is unacceptable behaviors, or family members or friends, you know?
Well, it's deceptively simple, yet not, you know what I mean? It speaks to this sort of deep philosophy we've all said of like knowing yourself. Now that you've ended a relationship with someone, now that you're just you again, although technically you always are, but mentally you're just you again, and you kind of feel drained, empty, or whatever, broken to pieces. There's a bunch of different ways that we sort of describe that. Deflated, destroyed, rock bottom, blah, 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 blah. Healing is what we want, right? We don't like feeling that way. Of course we don't. It sucks. It's not a pleasant emotion. We all agree. That's why we're all complaining about it. However, it is in that negative emotion where the lesson still needs to be learned. That's why you're feeling it, right? Because you understand, and you know how you know this is true is think of a time when you genuinely did let something go, and I know you've at least done it once. What were you letting go of? It was that emotion part that kept it locked there.
Yeah.
Right. And then you learned your lesson. Now you don't feel so upset about it. It doesn't trigger you anymore. You've let it go, but you still remember the information.
Yeah.
The emotional pain goes away when you genuinely own it and learn it. Now, that doesn't mean you can just flip a switch. It takes reminding yourself because you've also been conditioned, abused, and confused.
Yeah.
So it's like going to the gym and doing push-ups to get stronger arms. It really is. You've got to give yourself the time to rebuild up who you are. You're going to put your pieces back together, but you're smarter. It's a transition period. And the hard part, quite often when we're in an abuse situation, is that we are, at least I can speak for myself, I'm very toxically codependent. Like I really needed the external validation. I needed acceptance to feel like I was okay. At every party, I felt like I was the goober in the side of the room, and if I did something, people were going to laugh at me and like wish I wasn't there. Like I had all of that shit. Like, oh, he's so la la la. You know, that was what my problem was. So as soon as I'm away, that codependency isn't gone, right? That's for me to deal with. That's always been there. And suddenly, drama's gone, right? Drama's gone, and loneliness sets in with boredom. And impatience at that extreme discomfort starts pushing us to look for someone new.
Yeah, this is such like a daily part of our lives as breakup coaches. Yes, this phase right here. Yeah.
So it's so important. And this is why counseling patients is such an annoying thing. I know it. It annoys me to say it. It annoys me to think it for myself, but it's true. You don't decide how fast any of your wounds heal. Your physical ones, you can do things to speed up the process, but you can't really decide how long it's going to take until even a cut on your arm has healed properly. And you also understand how hard it is to let it heal properly, how much you have to leave it alone and let time. And same thing works for this stuff, right? When you're ruminating and constantly stuck in the memory of how toxic that relationship, how I wish it would have been this thing, how you can't let go, that's itching your wound. You know what I mean? Instead of doing what you know is right, getting it there, maybe eating right, whatever it is to help your body heal faster. If you want to continue with that analogy, that's what it is. You get stuck in the victim place instead of I'm broken and now it's in remodel mode. Instead of thinking like you're shattered into pieces, it's not that you're shattered into pieces. The choices you made, the plan you had, the thing you were working on, that got fucked up. You're fine. You rebuild. You know what I mean? There's a big difference. And we usually internalize and personalize and take way too much shit personally in general. Like, I give you my personal opinion, my idea, right? My idea about a movie, and you don't like it. You don't like my idea, not me.
Well, so good. We've covered a lot of territory in this. Was there anything that you think people just need to know about this topic in general that you want to make sure we include?
Work towards this idea of being alone, but not lonely.
Yeah.
Being alone means you have complete control over everything you're going to do with your life, right? So you have less excuses, less responsibilities, so more freedom. If you can get to a point where you're comfortable with what you're doing, right? Same thing, you know, I'm this, doing this, and I'm happy with this. Then you open yourself up to a partner. The goal should never be finding someone. The goal should be being who you are. Along the path of genuinely chasing your passion, aren't you more likely to find people compatible than finding them first and then going and trying to do your passion? It doesn't make a lot of sense at all, but we're lonely and society keeps pushing it. Movies say it's great. It's romance. We want that too. We want sex. We want intimacy. We want connection.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to come after you work on yourself. Incredible. And people are trying to skip it. You know, high school kids are playing relationships. They're not having them.
Yeah, that's true. I'm from personal experience, I'd say yes.
Oh, amazing.
That's what I was doing.
So where would you most like to send people to find out more about your wisdom and your work and what you're bringing to the world?
More of these truth bombs.
I don't know about wisdom. Well, thank you. Find me on TikTok for sure. That's where I'm most active in general. The Nitty Gritti is my TikTok handle. I am going to be having a meeting this Thursday to revamp, update my website, which is also the nittygritti.com. But if you want to connect with me for coaching, then usually Instagram is the easiest for most people. Find me there, follow me, the Nitty Gritti. Again, it's always the Nitty Gritti. I'm trying to be consistent here, so I'm easy to find. You should see the same little emoji icon that I drew.
You drew that. Oh, cute. We have loved this talk. Yeah. This was very fantastic. And I know that it's going to help a lot of people. I know that your work is going to help a lot of people. And so we thank you for, being willing to share it with the world and get it out there and, help others benefit from it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've had a blast too. It's been spectacular. I loved it.
Awesome. Let's keep it going. This is a very good connection between the three of us. So, and thank you to everyone who listened in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thanks for listening to X-Files, a podcast about breakups, broken hearts, and moving on.
If you liked this episode, tag us on your Instagram story so we can connect with you.
And you can find me, Claire, on Instagram at Claire Lofthouse.
And me, Janice, on Instagram at Janice Formicella. If you'd like to join our online community, find us on Facebook at Breakups, Broken Hearts, and Moving On.